Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to The Truth. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about each team's draft. Things that made sense, things that kind of took me off guard, things that I liked, and just kind of continuing with it. Starting off, we're gonna start with the Cardinals. Look, firstly, Marvin Harrison Jr. It's gonna be a great pickup for Ohio State. Getting into our next pick, Darius Robinson was someone who I thought was going to be an early day two pick, but goes to the Cardinals at pick 27. He's a guy whose name has been around the draft rooms in the NFL, spreading his name about how athletic, how dominant this guy is from Missouri, how impactful this guy is from Missouri. So, not surprised he gets drafted there. They end up going Max Melton with trading up for Rutgers. That's an interesting one to think about with who was potentially on the board, that's really interesting to see why they go Max Melton. I'd like to know why. Trey Benson out of Florida, that's kind of just more running back depth and compete for a starting job. Um, Isaiah Adams, they desperately need a guard. That's someone who's going to be really nice for them. Tip Raymond, they need depth at the tight end position. Elijah Jones also brings depth. Actually, Elijah Jones is more of like an extra piece now. DTD, Dodrain Taylor Demerson is safety for Texas Tech. That's some depth that's in that, some extra depth that they could use. That's nice to have. Xavier Thomas is some extra depth that they could use. Christian Johnson's probably a guy who's going to be moved into a backup guard spot. Um, that's needed depth. And then Tejon Palmer, he's kind of that big threat receiver with that contested ability, but also has a little bit of speed to him. And then Jaden Davis, defensive back out of Miami, is more extra depth. That's nice. Moving on to the Atlanta Falcons. And boy, oh boy, did they make a statement with what they did. Just kind of getting into it, the Falcons, with their first pick, instead of going edge or receiver or possibly cornerback, they went quarterback. Michael Penix Jr. I've had people compare him to Kirk Cousins. I didn't think he was going to play with Kirk Cousins. Michael Penix Jr. is a great quarterback, but he's a guy who you kind of expect to compete for a starting job and play now. So it's really odd that you see him go to the Falcons, who are probably going to sit him for 2 years. I kind of wonder why do that. Um, I talked about this earlier in my video, but it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens. Rook Aurora is also interesting. I get you want to help out that defensive line, that three tech, but it's just like, man, why not go outside linebacker slash defensive end? Why wait all the way to the third round? I like Rook Aurora. I think he's gonna be good. I think he's gonna help their line, but they desperately needed an edge pass rusher. Um, yeah, it's just like I like Rook Aurora. I think he could probably play the three tech. I mean, if you move him out to defensive end on that three tech style, I get it, but it's also like a true pass rusher was probably the best move. And you don't go for that until Braylon Trice in the third round, which is then it's like that's good, I guess. But I mean, like you better bank on Rook Aurora or Braylon Trice balling out for you because they had one of the worst pass rushes in the league. Brandon Dolores, defensive tackle out of Oregon. This is nice depth at the end of the day for their D line. JD Bertard, linebacker out of Notre Dame, kind of provides some nice linebacker depth. Something that's kind of a little underrated for Atlanta that they do still need to upgrade is that linebacker room. So add competition and depth. JC McClellan is just another running back you can throw on your roster, have him compete for a starting spot, and if not, just depth. Casey Washington, also kind of the same thing. It's the same thing with a lot of these players, especially Zion Lodge. These are guys who are going to compete for a backup spot and see if they can crack it. Moving on to the Ravens, kind of want to talk about a couple things with the Ravens. One, Nate Wiggins. This one kind of took me by surprise. I did not expect Nate Wiggins to go to the Baltimore just because I thought he was going to get selected higher. Also, the fact that it's interesting that they go cornerback. Um, is this maybe a move to help save cap later down the road, or is this a move to help develop a starter for later down the road? Possibly, but it's also right now it's great competition. Roger Rosengarten, offensive tackle for them. I mean, it's always good to help out the offensive line for them. I think that's important. Adisa Isaac, edge out Penn State's also a nice addition. Dantes Walker might be an underrated pick. Physically, the guy's amazing. He just needs to work on some technique things. Receiver of North Carolina. Look, I think this could be potentially a really nice pickup for them and could actually lead to him making a starting job. TJ Champa, another cornerback, nice depth. Rasheed Allen, Devin Leary, Nick Samaka, and not even going to attempt to pronounce the safety at Purdue. These are also nice depth pieces that you can have to where you compete and hopefully they make a spot or they make a roster spot depth. And if they crack starting job, well, there you go. You just dropped it amazingly. But that's the idea with that. Keon Cole. So just looking at the draft for the Bills, they needed to address a lot. They did. They had they traded back twice. One in the first round to the late first round, and one from the late first round to the start of the second round. The Bills did this so that they could accumulate draft picks to further develop their team because they let a lot of stars go, and it's kind of it's really they're rebuilding. They literally just said we're clearing house and we're rebuilding and trying again. So with their first pick, they go Keon Coleman. I like it. Not Stephon Diggs style, which is interesting, but I like it. You think more when you think Keon Coleman, you think more Mike Evans. Big physical guy who's going to go up and make catches. I like it. I think he's going to be a nice red zone depth for Allen. You have nice tight ends. Hopefully, Keon Coleman can be your number one because you still do need that. Cole Bishop, safety. You desperately need a safety after you let go the safeties that they did. Round 2, it's a stud pickup. Dwayne Carter also need defensive D line. Ray Davis as well. Cedric Van Pran Granger was arguably the third best center in this draft. So I think this is a really nice pickup in the 5th round. And he's probably going to start for you. I'm not going to lie. He might start for you. Edufan Ulofushowi, linebacker of Washington. It's not another nice pick late on the draft. Everything else is probably just quality depth. Or at least you hope to be quality depth. Getting to the Panthers. So the Panthers didn't have a first-round pick. They spent it to get Bryce Young. They trade into the first round and drafted Xavier Leggett, which honestly, I agree with. I think they should have done that. It's kind of a pick you expect them to make just because you do need help for Bryce Young. Like, yes, you have bodies at the position, but you need skill at that position. And Xavier Leggett's going to bring you that. Now it's Adam Thielen and Xavier Leggett. I think that's a way more appealing room than what they had before. Running back Jonathan Brooks. This is a nice pick. They did spend money on running back last semester. I wonder if it's kind of like, hey, really good running back. Let's see what he can do and see if he can crack the roster. Trevor Wallace, a guy who I expect to crack the roster, linebacker of Kentucky, is going to be nice depth for them. Or if they can, or actually, it's probably a starter considering who left in free agency. Jatavion Sanders, holy cow! I don't know why tight ends fell so far, but they did. Jatavion Sanders is arguably the second best tight end in the draft. So this is a big steal by the Panthers, and if he can work out, he'll be a nice pickup for tight end, which they really didn't have. They kind of picked up 2 really good guys that will help out their pass catchers and help out Bryce Young. Chua Smith-Wade, cornerback out of Washington State, nice depth. Same with Jaden Crumdy and Michael Barrett. If I can speak today, that'd be amazing. The Chicago Bears. They only had 4 picks. or they have 5 picks, excuse me. But in those first really 2 picks, I mean, like, you won the draft. Caleb Williams, arguably the best cornerback in the game. Roma Dunze, a top 3 receiver in the draft. So you have the top quarterback in the draft and a top 3 receiver in the draft. When you walk away day one, you like, honestly, you made 2 huge jumps. Offensively, there should be no issues. If there's an issue, it really falls on the coaching staff, and then everything gets thrown to wires. So you really have to make sure, coaching wise and scheme wise, that this works out, because you have plenty of weapons. I'm talking Cole Kmet. I'm talking Romo Dunze now, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. Now you have Caleb Williams. They have some nice running backs. Like this team, you drafted Kiarni Amegadeji, offensive tackle out of Yale. He might move into guard. It'll help out the offensive line. You're in a very good situation. In the 4th round, they take Tory Taylor, probably a guy who they should really like as a punter and just want to go get him. And Austin Brooker will ideally provide that for them. But I mean, yeah, you don't have a lot of picks. You don't really screw yourself over by taking future capital. So you stay there and you can build, which is good. For the Cincinnati Bengals, Amarius Mims was a big one. Like I said before, earlier in my draft, I thought Amarius Mims could be a guy who is a pack-up tackle right now, but is slowly later developed into a starting right tackle or left, depending on what you look at him. Chris Jenkins, I thought this was a very underrated pick. Chris Jenkins from Michigan, that's going to be a really nice addition. Jermaine Burton, receiver, also going to be a nice addition. McKinley Jackson will be a nice addition. Eric All will be a great tight end addition. And like I said, I don't understand how tight ends fell this far. Really kind of looking at it. Other than that, this is just really nice depth that they're adding to their team. And then going to the Cleveland Browns. They started out, honestly, I want to say they just killed the draft. They really didn't have to do much, and they killed it. Michael Hall Jr., defensive tackle. They needed defensive tackle. They got that, and then they also needed a guard, which they got. They upgraded their receiving depth with Jeremiah Thrash. Just want to say Zach Singletary is going to be amazing for them. Nathaniel Watson, linebacker, provides great depth. Miles Harden, cornerback out of South Dakota is going to provide nice depth, and Solo Briggs, if they can crack the roster. Moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, who needed the entire draft to help them out. They needed a lot. They really did, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Firstly, Tyler Guyton. Look, I understand they needed depth at offensive line. They also need starters, so this isn't surprising. Tyler Guyton's going to be a starter for them. What did surprise me was Marshawn Leland. I didn't think they needed an edge, and they drafted one. I really hope that works out for them because that might bite them in the butt. Cooper Beebe, great pickup. The fact that he fell to the 3rd round is crazy. Arguably one of the best guards in the draft, and he's going to the Cowboys, which will be really nice to help out with us offensive line. Maurice Louis-Fua, linebacker out of Notre Dame, is going to be a great starting linebacker for them. I think it's going to really help out. Keelan Carson's also going to provide competition for that cornerback room after they lost their second-string corner. Ryan Flournoy, he's probably going to fight for a starting spot. I'm going to be honest, Dave. That receiver 3 is open right now. Nathan Thomas, tackle out of Louisiana Lafayette, is going to honestly provide nice depth. And then Justin Rogers will do the same. Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos went Bo Nix in the 1st round. Honestly, whenever they were picking, I was like, oh, they need a starting tight end. Brock Bowers is on the board. Well, there goes Brock Bowers. Nope. They went Bo Nix. It's interesting because I'm not surprised they went quarterback. I'm just surprised they went this quarterback. it's so interesting because Bo Nix in Oregon worked so well, especially his last season. The question is, how much is that going to translate to the NFL with Bo Nix? Look, he was my sixth best quarterback in the draft. So I'm not surprised he went. Like I said, I'm not surprised he went here. But at the same time, it's kind of like maybe it was a bit of a reach. I don't know. I don't know how highly touted quarterbacks were to these teams. They didn't have a second round pick. They did have a third. Jonah Ellis, edge. Makes sense for what their situation was. Troy Franklin, nice pickup out of Oregon. One, played with Bo Nix, which is great. And two, compete for starting receiver spots because they need that. Kind of looking at this is all just nice depth and guys who can potentially compete for a backup or starting job. Detroit Lions. Terrion Arnold, and then going Ennis Rakestraw Jr. surprised me because they already attacked their cornerback rooms. So the fact that they went after those two, I understand they needed another cornerback, but going after two back to back is crazy. They really wanted to make sure their secondary was locked down. Like there's no doubt about that. Giovanni Manu out of Baptist Columbia, he's just gonna provide some nice depth. Sione Vaki, running back out of Utah, I kind of like this guy. I think he's going to be a nice addition if he can crack the rotation. Makai Wingo will be a nice defensive tackle for them who can help stop the run. Christian Mahogany, guard for Boston College. I think this is a great pickup for them. I think they'll like it for depth. Moving in to the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Morgan is a guy who can potentially play guard. The Packers don't usually pick offensive linemen in the first round unless they really like them, and they've hit on a lot of good offensive linemen, so I trust them on this, even though I was shocked that they took this. Edgerrin Cooper, 100% agree. That's going to be great for them. Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia. That's you need safeties. You need safeties, and you also take Evan Williams, which is another safety you need. Marshawn Lloyd, I kind of see. I mean, you did pay two running backs this offseason, so going for a third is kind of interesting, but I guess you want to fill out that room. Trayvon Harper, linebacker of Missouri, 100% agree with you should do. Jacob Monk is nice depth, and basically the rest is nice depth, if I'm being all honest. I do like Kalen King. It's a nice pickup for them. It's a nice body for them. Moving on to the Houston Texans. Houston didn't have a first rounder, but they did have 2 seconds. Kamari Lassiter, cornerback out of Georgia. It's a great pick. Blake Fisher, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Great pick. Kalen Balog, safety out of USC. Great pick. Their first 3 picks were amazing. That's how you want to come out the draft. Cade Stover, tight end of Ohio State. It's interesting. I like Cade Stover. Don't think he breaks my top 3. Could be a guy who could, but does provide nice depth into what they want their tight ends to do. Jamal Hill, nice depth. Basically, the rest of this draft is really good depth. Yeah. The Indianapolis Colts. Starting out, this was interesting. They were in a position to where they could go BP best player available in the first round if they wanted to, and they did. And they go Latu. That defensive line is just getting better. There's nothing else to say. Adrian Mitchell, nice receiver. It's going to start for them. It's going to be nice for the receiving core. Matt Goncalves could actually break the rotation. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a starter. He's not too bad offensive tackle off Pittsburgh. But I won't also be surprised if he was a backup. Tanner Bortolini was a guy who's kind of interesting. Didn't have too bad a year at Wisconsin, but did just terrible. Poor Tanner Bortolini. I feel bad for the man. He was not the best at the Senior Bowl. Anthony Gold, receiver out of Oregon State. Some safeties, corners, and then another defensive tackle. Just depth and competition is what you're adding at this point. Jacksonville Jaguars. Brian Thomas Jr. was really interesting. I didn't expect that to happen. BTJ, you know, they already attacked receivers. So in the offseason, so I was like, once they signed Gabe Davis, I was like, okay, they're not going to go after BTJ. Like I honestly thought, like in my mind, I was like, okay, well, BTJ is not going to Jacksonville Jaguars. They just got their third string receiver. He will start for you. Gabe Davis will be your third, probably. And then you'll probably have, I believe Calvin Ridley's still on the roster. So Calvin Ridley, Brian Thomas Jr., and then Gabe Davis, which is honestly a nice receiving core to have. When Gabe Davis isn't your second, I do think he can be a nice third for you. Mason Smith, I think is a little high for him. I love Mason Smith when it comes to talking about potential. He has all the potentials. Injuries hindered him at LSU, but he has all the potentials to be a really nice 3-tech. However, he never put it together because of injuries, and that's the risk you take, especially this high in the second round. Jarrian Jones, cornerback out of Florida State, was a nice pickup. Jordan Jefferson, going back-to-back LSU picks, he's going to be a nice run stuffer. He's going to be more of that one tech. I think having them play together will be nice to have. They're going to play well together. They've played well in college together. They're going to play well together because they have that chemistry with each other. Javon Foster and Jarrian Jones is going to be depth, and same for Blue. The rest, kicker competition is a little interesting. That'll be interesting and curious to see what happens. Getting into the next team, the Kansas City Chiefs. So they trade up and get Xavier Worthy, which is so interesting. Xavier Worthy, fast receiver in the draft in NFL history. Look, this guy is going to fly for them. Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy. I think that's definitely an upgrade from what they had previously. As long as they stay healthy, you still have Travis Kelce, you still have Mahomes. I think it's going to work out for you. My one big thing is corner for them, but other than that, I think they'll be fine. Kingsley Sutumaea, it's going to be a nice pickup for them. Offensive line-wise, Jared Wiley, backup tight end. Jaden Hicks of Washington State, I hope he hits because if not, that's going to be really interesting to see what happens at cornerback. The rest is nice depth, of course, to compete for a roster spot. The Las Vegas Raiders. I almost said Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Raiders. So instead of going quarterback, they just said, "Screw it, we're gonna go tight end." And so let me put you in my mind of what I was thinking. I was like, okay, you know what? They didn't want to go quarterback. I understand. Bo Nix already went off the board. I think that's what happened. Bo Nix went off the board. Brock Bowers, why not get one of the best? He's going to be one of the best H-backs in the league. I don't think he's a true Y because I don't think you can stick his hand in the dirt and then go drive out defensive ends. I don't think he's that type of player, but doesn't mean he's going to be great. I think he's more of a true H-back. I think he's going to do amazing. Jackson Powers Johnson, guard out of Oregon. Great pickup, arguably. Well, technically he's a center, JPJ, but he can play center / guard. I think this is a great pickup. He was arguably the best at that position for me. So I think it's great. DJ Glaze, offensive tackle out of Maryland, is a nice pickup. Other than that, kind of looking through it, just depth, really. They just got depth that they needed. The Chargers, Joe Alt, I've talked about this before. It's going to be interesting to see if he's play right or left. Lad McConkey. He's a guy who can play on the outside and can play on the inside, which is nice. He gives you that versatility. But man, that was interesting to see. I didn't expect that one to happen. Great route runner. So not only do you have Quentin Johnson who can go make jump balls, but you have Lad McConkey who can be an amazing route runner. And then also with the possibility of being contested weapon with potentially them signing Michael Thomas. I know they were talking to him. I don't know how far that's gone, but it'll be interesting to see. Junior Colson, linebacker out of Michigan. Great pickup. Of course, they know why that's a great pickup. Justin Ebukebi, 3-tech. It'll be interesting to see if he can crack the roster, and then how well that depth will be. Cam Hart, that's an interesting pickup. And then you go back-to-back receivers in the end of the round. Just depth, really, at that point. The Los Angeles Rams. Man, it's been so long since the Rams have taken a first-round pick. I just want to say this was an amazing draft for them. An amazing draft. The first 4 picks for them, masterpiece. Couldn't be any better. And then 6 was also a really good 6th-round pick. Was also a really good pick. I expect them to take a big jump up next year. This I wouldn't be surprised is a team we're talking about later down the road who did a Packers-esque style where we didn't think they were going to be that good, but probably start out hotter than the Packers, unless bearing injury, of course, but also just like with how much talent they have on the roster. They already had so much depth. It was just, can they get better? And they did. Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, 2 amazing pass rushers who are going to help out drastically on this team. And then you pick up Blake Corum to be a really good running back for you. Blake Corum was amazing for Michigan, and he's going to be amazing for them. And then you pick up Cameron Kitchens out of Miami. I mean, that's such a great pick. Sorry, my apologies. Brennan Jackson was interesting. It's going to provide some depth. Tyler Davis, stud pickup. I'm surprised they were able to get this guy. Stud pickup, great pickup. And then compensatory picks, which is always a nice step. Bjork Slimmer, that's someone to watch out for. He might end up being a nice depth piece at the center for them. The Dolphins. The Dolphins also get an edge and Chopper Robinson, and then go Patrick Paul out of Houston. 2 pretty good picks. Jalen Wright out of Tennessee is not bad, but you already have running backs, so it's kind of like I understand some of them have been injured, but I was like, Tajin Washington's a nice pick. Malik Washington's a nice pick. And that's not bad. Good depth. Just going down, I'll be honest. I'm going to say right now, I have the Rams having the best draft. Just heads up. The Minnesota Vikings. Honestly, I am so glad they did not trade up, because this actually ended up working out really well for them. I've said this before, JJ McCarthy, this was the best situation he could have probably went to, because he has weapons, he has good coaching, and he has probably it's going to be a pretty good defense next year. Dallas Turner, great pickup. I'm surprised he fell that far. He's going to be nice on the edge. You're going to have an amazing pass rush. Kyer Jackson, sorry if I can speak, cornerback for Oregon, will potentially probably be competing for a starting job. I wouldn't be surprised. Other than that, he'll provide some depth. You're going to have a kicker battle, of course, and then depth on the O-line and D-line. Moving on. The New England Patriots. Firstly, Drake May. This was a great pickup, just because you need quarterback. Jalen Pork was interesting to see in the 2nd round for Washington. You go Caden Wallace, then you go Layden Robinson to help out with the offensive line, which was neat. Javon Baker is someone who's interesting. Then you get Joe Milton. That's so interesting. Honestly, I'd have him compete. Why not? Joe Milton's going to be a great backup for you. And you could also, normally I'd be like, oh, yeah, Joe Milton. Man, go let that guy develop. Go let that guy develop and learn the NFL system, because he's not a raw guy. He just needs to learn the NFL system and get experience, because of the system he played in Tennessee wasn't NFL style, which is one of the reasons he fell so much. Of course, he didn't ball like the other quarterbacks. That's why as well. But I mean, when you're talking physically wise, yeah, of course, he needs a couple mechanics to change. But physically wise, guy's amazing. So I thought this was really interesting. Other than that, you get some depth. Scrolling back up to the next round, we have the New Orleans Saints. This one was interesting. Talisa Falaga makes sense. Could play left, could play right, or could play guard for them, which is going to be really interesting to see how that turns out. Kool-Aid McKinstry. I know Paulson Adebo for them is going to be a free agent, so that might be insurance. From what I'm kind of hearing is they like where Marshawn Lattimore's at, and they want to keep Marshawn Lattimore there. Spencer Rattler, probably quarterback battle. That's why I'm only assuming for depth-wise and compete and see if we can make a roster spot. Same thing with Bud Beams. Jalen Ford, probably make a starting roster spot. I'm not going to lie. They do need linebacker for, I think they have DeMarco Jackson at that position right now. Don't quote me on that. But it's good to have for them. Christian Boyd, super strong defensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. He's going to be a nose for them. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He will be a nose for them, and he'll be behind Caleb Saunders, I think. Joshua Izmer, offensive tackle out of Eastern Kentucky, will also probably move into guard. He has that ability to. The New York Giants. Malik Neighbors, great pick. Tyler Nubin, arguably the best safety in the draft, depending on if you move DeJean to safety or you keep him at corner. But if you keep him at corner, Tyler Nubin, arguably one of the best safeties in the draft. So great pickup for them. Andre Phillips, another great pickup. Theo Johnson, which is a really good pickup. Tyrone Tracy Jr., not a bad pickup. And then Darius Masua, a linebacker out of UCLA, which will provide depth. The New York Jets. Jets, Jets. Olu Fashanu, great pickup. Malachi Corley, great pickup. Jordan Travis, great pickup. Look, if you want a guy under, as long as he stays healthy, and look, it was a freak accident, so I'd imagine he would stay healthy. You have a nice quarterback behind Rodgers, who can also learn and develop. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up developing into. I understand the Falcons wanted to pull Packers. I think the Jets pulled probably the better way of doing it. Jordan Travis, I think he could be a really nice pickup for them. Oh, sorry. Zay Davis, Kalen King, stuff like that. Upgraded where they were and got better, which is nice. The Philadelphia Eagles. Talking about the Eagles, Quinyon Mitchell and then Cooper DeJean. Quarterback was something I expected them to address. I wonder if they're going to move DeJean to safety or not. That's going to be interesting. But if not, it's going to be really interesting to see why they went back-to-back corners. They moved DeJean to the slot, but then I guess, yeah, you could. Jalex Hunt, probably going to be that outside linebacker style role. Will Shipley, going to be trying to be depth. Amari Smith, also depth and potential ability to fight for wide receiver 3. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., someone who was always a lot higher on, who fell in the draft, could potentially be a stud pickup for the Eagles. The rest was just really nice depth. I mean, I like the rest of what they did. I think Johnny Wilson could be interesting to see. If I can pull him up real quick, he is a pretty physique-wise, dude's huge. He's 6'6". I mean, the guy's a monster. He's going to be a monster in the red zone. The one big thing was, do the Eagles eventually find their 3? And that's been the question for so long. I think Dylan McMahon, that's going to be interesting to see how he's going to develop for depth for them, because it's going to be interesting to see how that center position is going to roll out for them next season. After the Eagles, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for the Steelers, if I can scroll down, they select Troy Fautanu. Then they go Zach Frazier. So they address their offensive line immediately. They address tackle and center. Then go Roman Wilson addressing receiver. They've dropped. I trust them in this pick because they've been amazing at drafting receivers. I love this Peyton Wilson pick. Um, I'll be honest, he's probably in my eyes probably gonna play outside linebacker with his rush ability, but I could also see him playing on the interior. He's just for me, he's a little light. Um, Mason McCormack, guard out South Dakota State. Another guy who they're addressing. Logan Lee was kind of interesting, and then Ryan Watts. I mean, other than that, pretty solid draft. Getting into the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers, it was so interesting because I thought they were going to trade the receivers, but they don't. Um, Look, I like the addition of Ricky Pearsall because he gives you something in your receiving core that you really don't have and a contested catch ability while also maintaining speed, which is really nice because if you look at the 49ers or Shanahan's tree, let alone his own coaching style and his tree, they rely on speed heavily. They're a big speed type of team. So that's the NFL nowadays too. So I mean, it makes a lot of sense why Ricky Pearsall would go up higher. Um, Renardo Green, not gonna lie, don't know too much about him. I do know that Florida State team was really good and their defense was really good. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that works out. I love Dominic Pooney out of guard out of Kansas. I think that's a great pickup. Um, Isaac, not even gonna say his last name. I've seen some clips on social media. He looks like a big play guy. Coming from the 49ers, drafting a running back with big play potential, not surprising. Um, Other than that, just kind of addressing the line too, which I feel like they need to. That's kind of their biggest thing is O line, in my personal opinion. So if they can take a step up in that direction, I think it'd be good. The Seahawks, I thought the Seahawks had a great draft too. Byron Murphy and Christian Hayes, I thought those were two stud pickups. I mean, you get a great guard in the draft, and you get a great defensive tackle in the draft, a great three tech. Then you go Trice Knight, linebacker of El Paso. Wasn't really. This is a guy who kind of slipped under my radar. Didn't really know a lot about him. Um, AJ Barner out of Michigan. He's going to provide some nice blocking ability. Other than that, some nice depth as well. But honestly, these first two picks were amazing, and you really didn't trade up. I mean, like solid. It was a very solid draft for them. I liked it. The Bucks. The Bucks had a pretty good draft too. I'm not gonna lie. Um, Graham Barton. I think he's probably gonna replace who retired for them on their offensive line last this year. Chris Braswell off the edge is interesting. I know they lost Shaq Barrett, so I like this pick. They lost some guys at linebacker. Um, Tyreek Smith at safety, which is interesting. I think for the Bucks, he'll actually turn out pretty well. Um, Bucky Irving was another running back pickup, which is that's kind of an underrated thing for them is they don't have a bad depth wise at running back, but they don't have like a star at the same time. So it's kind of like yeah, you got depth, but you really need a star at that position, and you can really take that offense off. I liked it. I like it because like he adds more competition to a team who could run the football well. Um, Scoring down even more to the Tennessee Titans. JC Latham. It's gonna be interesting to see how JC Latham plays out. I love the JC Latham pickup. I also love this Tavondre Sweat pick. Um, I think that was a great pickup. I think he's gonna be amazing one tech for them. Look, and I've said this. I had a feeling the Titans were going to address the D line. They're just that. That's kind of their style, though. Like that's kind of been their thing. It's just like, hey, we're gonna address the D line. Our D line is going to be really well. We're gonna address the trenches too. Like they've been a team who's been really solid in both sides of the trenches, and they just continue that, which is not surprising. Cedric Gray, linebacker out of um, if I can get it, linebacker out of North Carolina. He's an interesting guy. Athletic wise, not the best, but per next gen stats, he killed it. He was the best in the draft, which is interesting. Not the fastest guy, not the most athletic, but produces well. He produced a lot for them. It's gonna be interesting to see how these turn. It's really gonna be interesting to see how these linebackers turned out because no one was really high on linebackers this offseason, which I thought was gonna be the opposite. And then nice depth as well. I thought linebackers were gonna be a lot better or gonna go a lot higher than they did. I don't think I was the only one with that. Um, man, it's kind of you kind of sit there and go, dang, like some of these guys are gonna slip through the cracks, and we're gonna go because I do think there are some really solid linebackers in this draft who are gonna be play really well in the NFL eventually. We're gonna kind of look back and go, how did this guy fall? How did this guy fall? I'm getting into how this guy fall. We'll get that into a minute. Firstly, Jaden Daniels. It was a great pickup for them. I love this pickup. Um, People are comparing him to RG3. I kind of see it. I still think Jaden Daniels is his own player. Like at the end of the day, he's still his own player. The whole over the middle thing is going to be something to watch out for. Is it an issue for him, or was it a dog? They just had dudes on the outside who they just threw fades to them, and that was it. Like I could see either one of those being possible. Um, Jair Newton or Johnny Newton, this was arguably the best three tech in the draft. Like I think actually it was the consensus of best three tech in the draft. And he slips all the way to the second round, pick 4 or pick 36. And we're kind of sitting. I was kind of sitting there like, how did Johnny Newton fall so much? Um, from what I'm researching is he had an injury. Teams weren't as high on him. That's why he didn't go in the first round. Um, but man, if that injury turns out to be nothing of special, a stud pickup by the Commanders. And then I'm also going to get into another pickup I really liked. Um, Mike Sandrust. I'm going to butcher that. Cornerback out of Michigan. He wasn't too bad for Michigan. I think he'll provide some nice depth. I don't know how well he's going to be as a starter wise though. I like the Ben Sinnott pick. Tight end of Kansas. I think this is going to be a great receiving threat for them. I think it's also going to get that position younger for them, which they do have kind of an older position at. Brandon Coleman's another nice pick I like, guard out of TCU. I think he's going to be solid. Um, Other than that, I think you got potentially some nice depth as well. And that should round out the draft, and it does. So let me know what y'all think. Do y'all like some UDFA's that were picked up? Do you like what y'all seen? What kind of teams do y'all think really had the best draft? Other than that, thank you all for watching, and I will talk to y'all next time.